Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, many thanks to everybody that took part in the sort of latest survey type questionnaire. Remember, we had the question for Ken Kratz. He was never interested in answering any questions, but we, he put that out there to me, and was never interested in answering any questions. So anyway, moving on, the next question was to do with who would be your preferred lawyer of choice if you needed one. Now, I did put that, if you had been wrongfully convicted, who would be your preferred person of choice to defend yourself. But I did explain in the video, and I'm sure I made it quite clear, make up your own scenario. It's funny how, a bit like the not quite so bad, but you know how the Blue Brotherhood, the police officers, they stick together. You can tell that the lawyers, they tend to stick together a bit as well, because there was one of them, some of them were coming back with, well, some of those are this type of lawyer, some of those are that, some of them are post-conviction, some of them are defence attorneys, some of them are this, some of them are that. I explained quite clearly, make up your own scenario. At the end of the day, they're all lawyers, and they all do the same thing. They argue on somebody else's behalf. So, they argue for the benefit of your client. So really that was the point. But, you get the awkward ones that come back. Oh, well, that they're not all the same type of lawyer. Well, you're lawyers, okay? I'm a musician, okay? I specialise in the accordion, but it doesn't stop somebody from asking me a question about music in general, does it? So anyway, as I say, I get the sense sometimes that the lawyers, they tend to stick together, and they, they're a different breed, aren't they? Not just lawyers, but people that are connected with lawyers, or who are sort of well up on the law. They they'll even defend sometimes some of the things that the state have done over there in Wisconsin. Oh well, they're actually allowed to do this. Although it's completely and ethically wrong, they're allowed to do that. I even heard that Ken Kratz even tried at one time to defend his press conference, saying there was nothing illegal about it. Well, if there's nothing illegal about it, then damn well should be. Anyway, rant over for today, and as I say, thanks to everybody. I think it was clear cut who was going to come out on top of that interesting exercise. The next exercise, of course, was which one piece of evidence do you think is going to be the one that results in a retrial for Steve? And most people came back with the answer that they thought it was the handing back of the bones. To which our wonderful guilter, Falcon, I don't know if he knows something, because he said, what evidence? Falcon, are you saying that you know that the state have handed back all the bones and there's none left? When you answer with what evidence, so it's all been destroyed. A lot of people are suspect, obviously, about the RAV4. Is the RAV4 there to be tested? Remember that Fallon was going to hand over the RAV4 to be tested to Zellner and the pelvic bone, and then all of a sudden, when everything was going along nicely, Judge Flowers suddenly intervenes. She acts so quickly on a huge motion that Zellner had put together, that 1,300-page motion. She took, next to no time, compared with this most recent time when she took for ages and ages to decide on one single issue. What was it? About, her final decision ran to something like it took her 2 weeks to write every page. And then there was definitely mention of the CD, the Veely CD, the report on supposedly Brendan's computer, which of course nothing really to do with Brendan. The violent searches were done by Bobby. But it makes you wonder why was that CD being kept in Fassbender's personal possession? Baffling, that, isn't it? And of course we do know why. It was so that Dean and Jerry didn't know what was on the computer. And obviously Kratz had misled them by saying that it was, well, it's Brendan's computer, but you're lucky there's nothing of any importance on this computer. A complete utter lie. One of the things that 3.5 years has forced upon me is I've had to find out quite a bit about how the legal system works in Wisconsin, or at least how it should work. Certainly got to know about, for example, what Denny means, the Denny law. It means that you can only suggest that other people might have committed a crime if you can prove, and this was the odd thing in Stephen's trial, if Dean and Jerry could prove that somebody else had the means, the opportunity and the motive. And it was interesting that they had to prove the motive when in fact the state didn't have to prove any motive in regards to Steve, because of course there was no motive for him. You know, from all accounts he was quite fond of, not fond as in the, you know, sort of wanting to go out with her, but you know, was quite friendly towards Teresa every time she came, and had obviously booked her on one of these hustle shots, and was actually wanting her to come and do another hustle shot later on the day that she went missing. You know, that just no motive whatsoever for Steve, and yet his attorneys have to prove motive in order to name other suspects. So yesterday, quite interesting. As you know, I did a video comparing particularly Brendan's case with that of Luke Mitchell, who is still in prison, obviously, having been found guilty of the murder of Jody Jones, with no DNA evidence linking him to this murder, and both he and his mother having passed lie detector tests. But I was just wondering, a question for all you experts out there, particularly you legal experts that you know, were in effect complaining at me about, you know, well, you've got all different lawyers, different types of lawyers there, you know. So here's a question for some of you legal experts out there. As I say, I feel like in all honesty, I know more about Wisconsin law than I do about Scottish law. And thankfully, I haven't had much dealing with Scottish law personally, so that's another reason why my knowledge is not as great. So the question would be, does anybody out there know whether in Scotland we have an equivalent to the Denny law? I've tried to look it up, but of course it's the big pain in the neck when it comes to the Denny law and asking for an equivalent is because there's a place in Scotland called Denny, same spelling. Every time I looked it up, I was getting directed to a place in I think it's near Falkirk. So anyway, if any of you experts out there know of an equivalent law in Scotland to the Denny law, if you know, somebody being accused can point the finger elsewhere, provided they meet the requirements, I'd be interested to know. Also, as I was explaining, I'm waiting on the book coming to do with the Jody Jones, Luke Mitchell case. Innocence Betrayed. It's Innocence with the ENTS at the end. Innocence Betrayed. And I've had a few messages from Dr. Sandra Lean. I might present some of those at in a future video, just to talk about what we've been talking about, and hopefully we'll have a chance to do some sort of video chat in the not too distant future. Anyway, that's really all I've got time for today, so enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll catch you soon. Bye for now.